Readers on Reddit are brutal. I was scrolling through the Writing Advice subreddit the other day and stumbled on a heated thread where readers were venting about things they read in books that make them roll their eyes. Things that frustrate or annoy them so much that they end up putting the book down. And let me tell you, the responses were ruthless. Also, oddly specific, and align with many of the things I see in manuscripts submitted to me for editing. So let's read through these comments together, and I'll give you my perspective as a book editor on how to avoid or fix these issues if you're worried about making any of them. This first one is a surefire way to instantly turn readers off your character. Witty characters that feel cringy. Here's the top comment in the Reddit thread. When a character tries way too hard to be witty, and then there's a response, when the writer themselves tries way too hard to be witty. Don't get me wrong. You can certainly have characters who are clever, sarcastic, and quick on their feet, but ensure these moments feel true to the character and the situation, and don't come across as you as the writer trying to show the reader how witty you are. Take Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice, one of the classic examples of a well-written, witty character. Her wit works so well because it's grounded in her intelligence and her perspective on society. When she teases Mr. Darcy or fires back at Lady Catherine, her dialogue isn't just smart and snarky, it actually reveals a lot about her values and worldview. Her wit is part of her character development, and that's why it still lands 200 years later. Now let's compare that to a bad example of wit, where the joke feels forced, falls flat, and doesn't actually enhance our understanding of the character. Imagine we saw an exchange between Lizzie and Mr. Darcy that went like this. Mr. Darcy: Miss Bennet, now that I've seen you dance, I dare say I've seen cows in the pasture with more elegance. Lizzie: How fascinating, Mr. Darcy, for I've heard cows in the pasture have also found your conversation to be utterly boring. Not good, right? Darcy's insult feels so on the nose and stilted, and Lizzie's wordplay with utterly feels super cheesy and also likely anachronistic. This exchange doesn't read as clever, but cringy, and it's clear that the author is trying to force wit where it isn't working. Now, this second mistake is something I see all the time in manuscripts I'm editing: pet phrases. Here's the Reddit reply. When different POVs use the same idioms or unique descriptions of things. Example, both thinking kicked the bucket when referencing someone's death, or looking at a chair and both describing it as oxblood. I don't know how fastidious I'm being, but it pulls me right out. I'm always on the lookout for phrases that the author overuses because the reader will pick up on them and they'll become distracting. If you say gold-flecked eyes 3 times on one page, you need to vary the prose. But this commenter brought up another level of this issue, which is when different POV characters use the exact same phrasing. It might not seem like a big deal, but it really takes the reader out of the story because it breaks the illusion that these are real, distinct people. And the more unique the phrase is, the more it's going to stick out. Rather than being immersed in each character's perspective, we'll start to notice the writer behind the scenes recycling that same language. And once that trust is broken with the reader, it's really hard to earn it back. Each POV character should have their own unique voice, their own vocabulary, tone, and way of seeing and describing the world. A 19-year-old rapper and a 65-year-old astronomy professor probably wouldn't describe the same sunset using the same words. Pet phrases can be really hard to see for yourself, so if you have someone reading or editing your manuscript, ask them to be on the lookout for repeat phrases. Then do a quick search through your manuscript for every instance of that phrase and variations of it, and change the wording as much as you can. This third mistake runs the risk of ruining your entire book for readers: spoon-feeding the ending. Here's the Reddit reply. I would say poorly written endings or saying things too literally towards the end. It catches me off guard. For example, character's name, in the end, had to sacrifice themselves, leaving their little sister, but not alone. He needed to sacrifice himself for the good of the world. Like, why not just allude to it? Instead of trusting the reader to connect the dots, the writer spells everything out clearly and leaves absolutely nothing open to interpretation. The result is an ending that feels like it hits us over the head with the point. The most powerful endings leave just enough unsaid. So we're left thinking about the story even after we finish the final page. But if the author tells us exactly what to think and feel, that emotional experience gets shortchanged. Your reader is smart, so don't feel like you need to over-explain things to them, especially at the end. If you've done your job, working in your themes, and building up to the ending organically throughout the rest of the story, then you will have already laid all the groundwork for your final scene to land with your intended impact. It should resonate without you having to spoon-feed it to the reader. This next mistake is one of my personal pet peeves as an editor. Perfect main characters. Here's the Reddit reply. When the narrator, omnipotent or otherwise, goes on and on and on about how sexy and beautiful the main character is, if she happens to be female, or how intelligent and or badass the main character is if he happens to be male. And it's never just one or two things either. The female main character is not only beautiful and sexy, she bakes perfectly, decorates perfectly, dresses perfectly, the best lawyer in the city, graduates magna cum laude from Harvard Law, even though she grew up on Skid Row, etc. The male main character is a black belt in karate, an expert in every type of firearm, knows more about the US government than the founders, can outthink Einstein, can make a grenade out of 2 pebbles and a tin can, etc. Yeah, I get it. The narrator wants the audience to like and admire the main character, fine. But after a certain point, it's like being stuck at a party where some insufferable parent won't stop bragging about their precocious, overachieving child. Admiration turns to boredom, turns to resentment, turns to, how do I get away from this blowhard? I love how they put this, but I totally get where this issue stems from. Unless you're writing an intentionally unlikable or unreliable main character, you probably want your reader to like your protagonist to some degree. That's totally fair. And it's fine for them to have some positive traits, whether they're beautiful, talented, or incredibly accomplished. But remember that a character you describe as totally flawless will actually come across as inauthentic. The best characters are compelling precisely because of their flaws, their vulnerabilities, their regrets, their mistakes. That's what makes them human, like the rest of us. Without those negative traits to balance out the positive, your character will have nowhere to grow and their arc will fall flat. When you make your protagonist too perfect, 2 things will happen. You'll alienate your reader because they won't relate to them, and you'll make your story boring. Like this commenter said, it'll feel like you're at a party where someone just won't shut up about their amazing kid. So to combat this, I challenge you right now to identify your main character's biggest flaw. Go ahead. Now, make sure that the reader learns about that flaw early in the story. I promise it's going to make them feel so much more well-developed. I have another video that does a deep dive into the most common character mistakes, so I will link that in the description. Truly never thought I'd be able to say this, but I'm so close to reaching 100,000 subscribers, and I wanted to thank each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel and engaging with my content. If you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a great time to help me reach that milestone. Thank you so much. This next mistake is a prime example of how to write conflict wrong. Unnecessary miscommunication. Here's the reply. Conflict based on immature miscommunication. Phone rings. Hello? Dad, I need to talk to you. I have nothing to tell you. Dad, please, just one moment. It's important. How dare you call me after what you did? But please just listen. No. But Mary is, no, you have no right to talk about her. But she's, Dad hangs up. Bruh. Just do that. Hello? Mary is alive. What? Who is it? It's me. I saw Mary today. She's alive. Damn. I guess we actually need to effing talk like effing adults. You're 30. I'm 55. We shouldn't act like teens, right? In the example here, the major plot development, the dad learning that Mary is still alive, gets buried under a frustrating conversation that doesn't add anything. The characters are arguing about nothing, really, and the conversation ends abruptly before that development is shared. This prevents the plot and the actual main conflict from moving forward, and readers can feel that stagnation. Now, I'd likely edit the second version of this conversation so it feels less abrupt, but it does get right to the juicy part of their exchange. You can certainly have characters miscommunicate, especially if one character is intentionally hiding something. But when it prevents the plot from moving forward, or it distracts us from the actual main conflict, take it out. This next mistake is a particularly brutal one, so get ready. Bad jokes. Here's the reply. 80 to 90% of the times a character tries to make a joke. Ouch. I think this commenter is being a little too harsh in saying that 80 to 90% of jokes in books don't land, but it's true that humor is exceptionally hard to write, especially because humor is so subjective. On top of that, you have to make sure the joke makes sense for the character and the situation. I don't believe you should totally avoid humor though. Even the darkest, most serious novels have moments of lightness and levity to balance it out, but the key is to know what you're writing and not trying to force humor where it doesn't belong. For example, I recently edited a thriller where the main character finally confronted the killer, the big climax of the plot. The whole story had been building to this confrontation. Then, as the killer pulls out a gun and points it at the main character, they say, well, I guess my psychic was right that I would die young. And in that moment, I got totally taken out of the story. The joke just didn't fit the tone or the intensity of the scene, especially because we hadn't seen the character make this type of commentary before. It felt like they were just shrugging off their own potential death rather than fighting to stay alive. It was totally awkward and felt misplaced. For humor to work, make sure it fits the voice of the character and is appropriate to the situation. Now, this next mistake made me laugh because it's extremely specific. A character letting out a breath they didn't know they were holding. Here's the reply. When every character lets out a breath they didn't know they were holding, I let out a groan I definitely know I'm holding. Instant eye roll. It's so true that this phrase has become totally overused in fiction. Because it's something we would never say in real life, it sticks out like a sore thumb. If you want to convey your character letting out a breath or sighing, do so with more original language. Maybe something like the air hissed behind her teeth. Or you can convey that same physical response with another gesture entirely, like the shoulders relaxing. There are a lot of other overused phrases in fiction, like a smile that didn't reach their eyes or characters padding down a hall. So try to be aware of them. And if you spot them in your manuscript, describe that gesture in another way. This language will make your writing sound amateurish and a seasoned reader will pick up on it. This next mistake is one we already covered, but it's clearly worth talking about again. Miscommunication. Again, here's the reply. Miscommunication tropes. Drama that feels like it's literally just for the plot. This is when authors contrive drama between characters just for the sake of it, without it actually enhancing the story or their character arcs. One of the most common examples of this is when a character sees their love interest having dinner with another character and assumes they're cheating on them. They usually storm out, sometimes refuse to speak to the love interest ever again, and spend half the book spiraling, only for us to then learn that that other person was just the love interest's sibling. That drama isn't satisfying because it could have all been avoided with one simple clarification. There isn't any real source of conflict between the characters, it was all made up. Another example of this could be a character getting upset with another character for not answering their calls or texts, only for us to learn that the other character's phone had been broken or stolen. Again, there's no real tension between them, so there's no substance for the reader to latch onto. Your characters should have conflict, but it should stem from actual issues in their relationship, not just be silly miscommunications that can and should be avoided. Now, this last mistake is a huge one that most new authors struggle with. Bad dialogue. Here's the reply. When the dialogue genuinely makes no sense, I'll be yelling out, "No one talks like that," because it's so infuriating. I DNF a book so fast for this. DNF means did not finish. Bad dialogue is the literary equivalent of nails on a chalkboard. I get shivers just thinking about it. But what actually makes dialogue sound unrealistic? There are so many ways to get dialogue wrong. In fact, I did a whole other video on common mistakes with dialogue, so I will link that in the description. But here are 3 of the biggest ones. Characters over-explaining things that they already know just for the reader's benefit, using stilted or overly formal language with someone they're supposed to be close with, and characters saying exactly how they feel explicitly. That's just not what we do in real conversations most of the time. The best way to stress test your dialogue is simple. Read it out loud. Does it flow naturally, or do you find yourself tripping up? If you're stumbling, that's a sign you need to go back in and revise it to flow more smoothly. Authentic sounding dialogue has rhythm, inconsistencies, even incomplete sentences. It's messy in the way that real speech is messy. And critically, remember that what a character says aloud to another character is only half of what's going on in a scene. We also need to understand what they're holding back and what they're thinking and feeling during the dialogue exchange for it to be a compelling scene. So those were the top 9 responses to the question of what makes you roll your eyes when you're reading a book. But now I want to rapid fire go through some honorable mentions and say if I agree or disagree. When characters suddenly gain new abilities or knowledge out of nowhere just to solve a plot problem. Totally agree. It's just lazy writing to solve your character's conflict with a convenient solution. Books that use the a thing of thing and other thing title format. I often won't even pick those up. This has definitely been a popular title format recently, but I won't discount a book just based on the title, so I don't agree with this one. When characters magically get out of every problem with 0 consequences, it kills the tension and makes the story feel pointless, like nothing that happens really matters in the end. Totally agree with this one. When there are no consequences, there are no stakes. And if nothing's at stake, the reader has no reason to care about what happens to the characters. Love triangles. This one surprised me. I don't hate love triangles by default. I think they can work well if all three characters are well developed. At the end of the day, what this thread shows is that reader tastes are subjective, but it helps to know what irks a lot of readers so that you can write a story that resonates widely. I was shocked to see that one major writing mistake I see all the time wasn't covered in this list. So watch this video where I reveal the one issue that will instantly kill your story. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.